Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. If you are joining the Explorer from wherever around the world, I appreciate your time as always. Today we have a very important strategic discussions regards to France, Afrique, France's role in the continent of Africa, why France, Afrique has been a fundamental failure in the continent of Africa, and from the strategic reason and France's foreign policy has huge concern regards to how African countries, especially those French-speaking, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, we are going to have some frank conversation as to the reason why African nations are making some strategic choices, because the challenges that they are facing, they need partners that provide them the alternative at this critical time in Africa's own history. So I have my very good friend, Andre, will be joining me directly. He's joining me directly from the Gambia.
From the Smiling Coast.
Happy to have Andre on board. Great. So, Andre, thanks for joining the stream today.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure for me.
Great. So, we will be doing more of this. Just so you know, leave us a comment. I want you guys to let us know if you are coming from one of the French-speaking countries, how you perceive France's role in the continent of Africa. So, we're not going to take much of your time. You know how we do it here at the Explorer. We don't hold you hostage. We go dive straight into it. So, Andre, let me just give this opener. So, France's role now have come under tremendous scrutiny, and the country of France, this so-called France Afrique, a particular kind of foreign policy that is questionable at the moment. It's subjugated a number of countries across the region, lack of investment, lack of development. And some countries, what we are trying to discuss here is not that some African countries have not squandered the opportunity or embezzled or misused their natural resources. Some have done so, but the bulk of these nations in the Sahel, whether you talk about Burkina Faso, Mali, or Niger, and very critical players like Senegal that you would not imagine. Recently, the Senegalese president asked in an interview, said, if you see Senegalese troops marching in France, how would that be? So referring to France's military bases in the region, and more importantly, the country of Ivory Coast, the darling, I call them the darling of France. If they come up and start asking questions, it means something is not working. So even Chad, a very critical player, we saw Mr. Macron went to the country of Chad during Mr. Idriss, the former president rather, passed on. The son took over that transition. So if you see partners like this asking a lot of questions, I think there is a bigger problem as to France Afrique, which has not been a good foreign policy for France. What do you think, Andre?
I mean, where do I even start, right? I think that what's happening is that the young people are starting to understand what's going on in the environment. They're starting to understand geopolitics, and they're starting to less and less take some of this abuse that France has subjected all its former colonies to for all these years. I don't know when. I mean, you made a statement that the France Afrique is not looking favorable now. I don't know when it has ever been favorable. The whole idea behind instituting France Afrique in the first place was not because they love us so much. We all know that there are other reasons behind that, and staying tagged to the African nations, even though we are claiming independence. So I don't see how that can ever be something that's acceptable by any country. So to me, actually, from a Pan-African perspective, it amazes me that all these countries are still under this useless, senseless policy.
So, yeah, it amazes me as well that these countries are still really in this partnership. But don't forget, there is what is called the cooperation agreement that these countries signed, and a number of them had opportunity for France to always come to their rescue. We've seen that over and over across the region. And we've experienced that in Madagascar most recently. And we saw how France's presence was eminent, and we saw how France evacuated the president. That's the reason why you have all of these military bases there. So these countries are very concerned because the growing population, the emerging middle class, the challenges, unemployment, difficulties, and then they have abundant natural resources, and they have a partner that over the centuries have not accepted them to be productive in terms of their own particular collaboration. Their currencies are under total control. They deposit billions of US dollars into France's treasury. So this is a big concern. And some of the leaders, going back to this France-Afrique, have always been enjoying this France-Afrique. It was like it was built at the upper echelon. It's something we've been talking about there on this channel about France-Afrique's relationship. So what do you make of countries like Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, who've gotten it to right up here, and they said this strategic partnership, so-called strategic partnership, is something that at this moment, if we don't make a move, then there's going to be some consequences. What do you think?
I love it. I love it. I think that's the example that the rest of French Africa needs to follow. That's the example that every other French African nation needs to follow. And that's what France fears the most. And that's why you see what happened in Niger. They had to step in while the snake reared its ugly head out and clip it as soon as possible, because they don't want this to continue to be a tradition, right? They don't want everyone to think that they can just take the laws into their own hands and fight for their sovereignty. So when you look at countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, these are leaders that have the people at heart. These are leaders that have the people at heart, and that's all Africa needs from its leaders. Not leaders that are willing to sleep with France and enjoy the riches for themselves, like what's happening with all these other nations. Just imagine what Africa would be without France. And then now go back and imagine what France would be without Africa. Was it not Jacques Chirac who said that France would collapse without Africa? So anybody who thinks that France-Afrique was put in place to benefit Africa in any way, shape, or form is just crazy.
I agree with you there, because it's important that African countries start recognizing where things stand at this moment, because it comes at a time where you have the United States of America. It's making some strategic decision to put Africa where it belongs. And these countries across the region that have been with France for centuries. And it is clear that we are facing a period where African countries must recognize that the competition is immense out there, and especially in the Francophone speaking region. But the big question I want to ask you, Andre, is that why is it that it's only countries from the Sahel who are, I won't say rebelling, but they have come to the realization that they have been with France for centuries, and their poverty rates still keep going. And the moment they become very close to the country of China or Russia, it becomes a problem. I'll give you an example. Since before China even jumped into the continent of Africa, France has been there for centuries. It's been there exploiting the natural resources of these countries over and over. And all of a sudden, you may not like them. You may not like what the Chinese are doing. Some may have some with that, but I don't have any problem with that, because Africans need roads, they need bridges, they need some infrastructure, they need airports, they need dams, electricity, and highways. The local African farmer needs to see that there are roads from villages to the city to move their products. So can France make this argument that these countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, they are just rebelling? Or times have changed that these countries are feeling the pressure, and some of those leaders who were very strong members of this France-Afrique thing were not paying attention? Is it just that you can blame it on Russia and China, or France has a huge blame for neglect here?
France has a huge blame because, like you said, like you eloquently stated, they've not done anything in terms of development in these countries. A country that cared about who they're hovering over would at least go to a certain extent to invest in architecture, to invest in infrastructure, to invest in education, for those countries. But France hasn't done that. All France is known for is taking, 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 and taking. And there comes a time, we have this saying that 99 days for the thief. This is the day for the owner. When you look at Niger, you look at Burkina Faso, they are awake now. They've woken up and they're saying, hey, we're not going to be placed in this position where you guys come in, take as much as you want, and don't give anything back.
Yeah.
And then you turn around, like you said, you look at China, you look at Russia. They are coming in and they're doing business. Business is business. In business, you look out for yourself and you make deals that would equally benefit both parties. And these guys are going to these countries, turning to these other superpowers and saying, hey, we are open for business. If you're willing to come in and do just and fair business with us, we're going to do business with you. So it's no longer, it's a competition now. And when the market opens, anyone is in for the taking. So I think that's what France is realizing. And then when they see that, they realize that they're losing influence and they're losing power. And then what comes next is what America does best: spin a narrative. This country is being rebellious. This president is being rebellious. All they're trying to do is create another coup, sponsor another opposition leader that sees things their way, and then they continue stealing and stealing and stealing. So what you see here with the Sahel, I can't really put a finger on why that particular region. I don't know that has something to do with that, because we have the Ivory Coast and the Togos and the likes that they're just enjoying the ride, right? So maybe that has something to do with it. But as an African, as a West African or a Central African, we love to see that. We love to see that, and we hope that these other countries can pick up that baton and follow those same footsteps. And it's all about the youth. It's all about the youth being educated, understanding geopolitics and understanding what's happening around them. Because the price, you don't understand how geopolitics affects you until the price of bread goes up or the price of beer goes up.
Yeah. It's true. So what you are looking at now, Andre, it's basically just the kind of a picture of what this France Afrique all together stands for. Just for the benefits of our viewers, I'm just going to read it very briefly. That France Afrique, Porto, that's a portmanteau term describing the complex, often neo-colonial relationship France maintained with its former African colonies, involving deep political, economic, military, and cultural ties that critics view as a system to preserve French influence. Even after former independence and benefiting from why France often enriches corruption, so to point out African leaders and hindering genuine development. It signifies networks of patronage, economic control, like the CFA franc, military presence, and covert dealings that have historical ensued French strategic interests. Though this grip is now challenged by new global powers and African youth demanding that there should be some element of change at this time. So, Andre, so this is where the problem lies at the moment. And I tell people that those who do not understand why they say look complex. It's not complex at all. It is a moment that there's been a huge transition, and like you eloquently said, that France hasn't faced any competition for centuries. So the Russians are bringing some competition in there, whether it's security, whether they're successful or not. It's not something for me or you to justify that. But every country is fighting for their own interests. So I think that, like what the France Afrique described, the thing that I just read, it is a system that failed to catch up with the transformation. It is a system that failed to recognize that these countries have incredible challenges at this time in their history, with millions of graduates coming out from university, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad, and these countries. You and I know we've traveled the continent. We understand what the implications could mean, and this system failed to recognize that the incredible potential that these countries have, with nationals who are benchmarking, citizens of this country are benchmarking their own particular survival. They are looking at other countries are growing and developing, and like Niger, for example, that have abundant uranium and one of the largest producer in the world, and that they are still stuck in the same position and they cannot make use of their own natural resources. I think these countries recognize that something needs to change. And for you to take out a country, a system like France, you need to uproot it, because it is right inside. It's like a cocoa tree that has its roots all over the place. So take it from me, this issue of that these countries are just rebelling, I don't agree with it that they're rebelling. They are facing existential threat and they need to survive. And I think France is just blaming it to Russia and China, because before these two countries came, France has been there for centuries. What's your take?
I think I think you're so nice. I think everything you said here, what you just read there is, I'll break it down in a more brute form. That is slavery.
Yeah.
Right? Well, what they're saying is you're no longer enslaved, but we're going to stick around and make sure you don't go to your potential. We're going to stick around and make sure everything we are supposed to be stealing from you, we continue to steal from you. Because the definition of France Afrique in that write-up, it's not even close to what France has been doing to these countries for the last, I don't know how many years. Right, which I mean, point to one country that France has developed in any way, shape, or form. Let's even go back to colonization when you had the Germanys and Portugal and the likes. Look at Namibia. Look at all the other countries that were colonized by all these other powers. Which country can you point to and say France actually colonized and actually effectively put in structures in place that said, hey, this is the country we're colonizing and this is the country we want to see eventually evolve into an independent sovereignty or independent sovereign nation? There's not one you can point to. There's not one you can point to. Which of these countries still have an active railway? There's not one you can point to. So France is losing influence in when it comes to France Afrique. There's no doubt about that. They understand that. France is looking at what Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, what those countries are doing, and they're saying, wait a minute, not only are we weak, these guys are telling the entire world that we are weak. What are we going to do about it? So the question is not what is France going to do about it, because we know what France is going to do. When a powerful force such as France holds you, they do not intend to let you go unless it's by force. So the question is not what France is going to do, because France will fight for its dear life. France will not survive without Africa. The real question is, what is Africa going to do? What are the other countries going to do? Because if they all do what these junta leaders have done, then now we really have something. Now we're really looking up to something, right? Now we really have a chance at true sovereignty. Now we have a chance at true development. Look at what Burkina Faso has accomplished in the last, how long has it been? Look at what they have accomplished. Look at some of the deals they have struck. I mean, we can do a quick research and look at some of the things that they have been able to do with Russia and China and all these other countries. So, yeah, France understands. France knows where France is at this particular point in time. The question is Ivory Coast watching, right? Is Togo and all those other countries, are they paying attention? What are they willing to do? What are they willing to do for their people? That is really the question. So it's the question of leadership. Africa is in control. Africa has to take control of its own narrative. I'm done with the point of constantly blaming France. I think the entire world can see what France is doing. The question is, what are we doing about it?
I think you actually lay it there, because this notion that, like I said, African countries do have this these French-speaking countries, they have their own blame. Some of them have been through these coups over and over before they start setting up. Now, previously, you will never hear any coup from this French-speaking region, which was not full of devastating coups. But now, a number of these coups are bloodless now, because it comes by these people. Maybe they have recognized that we were being pushed around. Doesn't mean that there are not threats available for those leaders in those regions, but in the global media, it's always been talked of that these are, you may call them junta, you may call them whatever you want to, but they are sensing some dangers. They are seeing that if something is not done, nothing is going to change. And they are facing this, despite Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger breaking away and Chad having enough and going towards China. We recently saw how China inaugurated an incredible stadium in the country of Chad. That partnership is working. So France can no longer come up and play this narrative of Russia, China in the country, because we saw how, again, recently in Madagascar, how, because if you have so many military bases, Africa complain on this issue. It's not that like Africa does not want to work with some of its partners, but when the strategic partnership is not on equal footing. I'm not saying that China, it's 100%. No, China has its own challenges that it is showcasing the continent, but you cannot compare France's centuries of stay in the continent and Chinese own involvement. Look at what China has done in East Africa. Look at the Standard Gauge Railway. You may not agree. Western partners will question that it's debt trapping. I would prefer to be in debt and while I'm paying that, and then have the better infrastructure, than to be in this region that you and I are looking at, considering Burkina Faso. They look at this Togo and Benin, Mali, the largest countries, and Niger, which is the largest country in the Sahel. We have Mauritania there. So why is this really happening? Because there must be something wrong here. You can, because you have Ghana in between, and you have also Ghana is there. Why is Ghana not behaving the way this? Because is there something wrong with the French foreign policy?
Well, you have to think about it this way. China has never enslaved anyone, neither did Russia. So when you talk about doing business on a mutually respectful terms, there has to be some respect in it. France would never respect Africa, not after being the so-called guardian of that region, right?
Le gendarme of Africa.
Exactly.
That's what some
so
people call them.
There's never going to be There's never going to be mutual respect. So we should, under no circumstances, ever expect Africa and France to be in good business together, right? Some of these nations, some of these countries are now recognizing that, and they're saying, you know what, we're going to take our money elsewhere, and so are we going to take our resources, right? Because the days of you coming in, violating us, and bringing nothing back is over. That's what Niger did. That's what Burkina Faso and Mali did. And they realized that it's not just kicking France out, because that's not how France gets to go out. They still have influence. They still have companies on the ground. They still have other investments on the ground. So how about we start kicking out those investments? How about we start taxing them, right, adequately? How about we start benefiting from some of those investments that they have on the ground? So that's what they were able to do. You saw videos went viral of those oil companies, all those, there were those engineering companies that were destroying all their trucks, destroying all their cars, breaking all their machinery when Burkina Faso kicked them out. I don't know if you saw that, but that's how France feels. That's how France feels. And Russia is what's Russia's benefit? Russia is in it for business. One man's meat is another man's poison. And Russia is saying, hey, if you guys are going to be willing to work with us, we're going to come in and work with you. We're going to strike a deal. And let's go back to the argument that those are bad debts or bad deals. It depends on
Yeah,
who it depends on who is the leader. Because if the same leadership that's in bed with France is the same leadership that's going for those loans, then of course they are going to be unpaid, because these guys don't care about their nations, they don't care about their country. But what you're seeing in Mali and Burkina Faso is not that. What you're seeing is true patriotism at play. What you're seeing is people who care and love their nation, and they want to see, these guys are taking us back to Thomas Sankara. They're taking us back to the time when to be a leader actually really mattered. It meant something to be a leader, right? And they're striking deals that benefit the nation. And when you do that, nobody cares how much goes into your pocket, Fabian. Nobody
that's
cares,
true.
because
I,
they see in not
I
just
as
rhetoric, they see in action what you're bringing back to the country.
Absolutely. As you are analyzing this stuff, I want you to be paying attention on the screen as well. You are looking at I think it's a French radio station or newspaper. They saying, I want to draw your attention on this. Niger to float its own uranium on the international market in break with Francis Orano, the French company. So this is a story that sometimes I go back to link this up with what we're seeing happening at the moment in Niger, because Niger have these abundant natural resources. And why would France be, if Niger decides to put its own natural resources? Is it natural resources of Niger? It's not a natural resources, and they are very
Exactly.
concerned. And why should it even happen in the 21st century? So it means they were benefiting incredibly, like you mentioned, and
Obviously.
to take out a country like France in your affairs, like you said, they are very interconnected in World Bank, in International Monetary Fund, at the African Union, at the financial. All right. So I was just I wanted to share a particular image with you, so you can take a look and see why this particular partnership, it's always a problem, and why these countries are questioning France's role, because this comes from France 24, and they were saying that France, one of the foreign ministry, actually was like claiming that they had a role in the coup in Benin. So this is not me saying, not you saying. So we're gonna see it ourselves. This is France 24, right? So France provided logistical support to help thwart Benin coup attempt, Macron's aide said. So, Andre, what comes to your mind if you hear this? If you see, because this is not like a local newspaper in some African countries. You would say, "Oh, this is like propaganda. They want to say something that France did not do." No, this is France 24. It's a French based TV station. I think it's a government kind of funded thing there in that country. So, what would it mean to you if you see such a thing being floated out there?
This comes to me as no surprise, Fabian. This is no surprise to me. This will not be the first coup that France has aided. This will not be the first coup in that region that France has influenced in one way or another. I think everyone knows the play. I think that France is fully in support of the current administration, and this is just my theory, not a political analyst. This is just,
Yeah.
like you said, we are onlookers and observers as well. We just try to read into
Yeah.
things. I think France is obviously in bed with the with the current leadership in Benin, and the
Benin, yeah.
people. Because you ask yourself, why is there a coup? Because from what we're reading, the president was supposed to be serving his last term and leaving early next year. So what they're seeing is
Yeah.
they're seeing a game going on where they're trying to hand off to another person who is also going to be a part of the system, and the people are saying enough is enough. So they're stepping in to stop that before it gets worse. And what's France going to do? France is going to support its interest. France is going to step in, do what they need to do to ensure that they continue to maintain influence on that nation. That is what they have done across all their
across
former
the board.
colonies. That's what they have done. That is the play.
Yes.
That is the play. Divide and conquer, and then promote the coup. The coup is never the play. The play is always the system.
Yeah.
So when people look at the coup and they mention, oh, there's a coup, that is just a distraction. You have to look at where is the power changing hands and where is it flowing to. And I think that's the most important thing.
It's true. What you're saying is absolutely true, because it was reported in the news, what you said, that there was grievances that it is actually the Minister of Finance, which is a very close ties to the leader there in Benin, Mr. Talon. So I think he's a finance minister. I heard it read actually in the news all over that. This was the guy who was going to become the presidential candidate, or was a close person. So that transition again is about to happen there. So this is the problem. I want to go back to this very important thing where when the coup in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger happened, France criticized it so terribly that it was like the worst thing that ever happened in the continent of Africa. But experts argue that when Idriss Déby passed on, and you had Mr. the current leader of the country of Chad, France did not criticize. We had a video here, we played it here, when a France ROFE official was questioning former President Mr. François Hollande on France 24 television. I have that video here on the Explorer. If you have not watched it, go back and check that particular Operation Seval and Barkanande in the Sahel. So they asked him that, is it a double standard? Because I want to ask you, is it a double standard that some coups are being supported and some are not, some transition are supported in some countries, and some coups like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are considered to be unacceptable? So why this divide and rule? Let me put it this way. Why do you want to do this? To accept Chad, of which Chad has turned around and see that the partnership is not working, has kicked them out, and embrace China? So what do you think is going on here to split? Is it divide and rule system?
Well, divide and rule system is what they've utilized their entire life. That's the biggest play. But it's very obvious. You don't support a coup that doesn't work to your benefit. It's such an easy question. You know, why would I support a coup in Burkina Faso when I know that is a coup that is led by patriotism, it is led by passion, and is led by pure heart for the country? Why not support a coup like the one in Gabon, where you know you are just removing one and put one A, right? It's the same thing. So I said these guys use coups as a strategy. Not every coup is a coup. We've seen that throughout the entire ecosystem. Not every coup is what you think it is. So if you don't look deeper, you would think that
Guinea-Bissau, right?
Look at
Guinea-Bissau situation.
Look at Guinea-Bissau.
Look at the Nigerian president, Mr. Goodluck Jonathan, who came out and debunked.
Look at how fast ECOWAS stepped into that, right? And then look at how they responded when it was Burkina Faso. So this is what fascinates me about this whole thing, and this is why I don't really do too much politics in public. Is sometimes you look at it and you wonder if everyone else is seeing it the same way you're seeing it. You know, is it supposed to be a magic trick? This is no secret. France does not want to let go, and we have a new generation that is saying enough is enough. But you also have on the other side people who are in position of power that do not want to let go. They've been milking the system for so long. They don't know what it means to live away from the system. So you now start to see them using a nation and its people as ploys. It's like they're playing a game with lives of people for generations, right? You come down, okay, now it's your turn. Now you take it over. Okay, I'm just going to hang around and eat as much as I can. Okay, now it's your turn. And France is sitting there cherry picking who is going to follow them and who is going to obey them the most. And I think that's what's
Yeah.
happening. There's no real functioning country amongst these countries, right? It's unbelievable what these guys have been able to do. A handful of people have taken hostage of an entire nation, and they are playing with it as if it's a video game. While people are suffering,
Yeah.
people don't have food to eat, people can barely afford a meal, 3 square meals a day. People cannot go to school. Young kids have no future. They have no hope, and you have the oligarchs sitting at the top, squandering everything, which is peanuts
Yeah.
compared to what France is taking away from them, and they forget that they will not live forever. And that is
Yeah.
exactly what's happening here in all these countries. There's the audio that came out the other day. Look at what's happening in Gabon with the court proceedings. Look at how many billions these guys were squandering.
Yeah.
Look at how many billions young people, friends of the son of the president, they were on billions. They were on salaries of billions of CFA, right? For a country that has a GDP of I don't know what. So this is exactly what's happening across the board. And if you ask why the people are not standing up, how can they? They're not hopeful. They're not hopeful.
Yeah.
But if every one of these countries that are under France were to follow what Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger have been doing, I guarantee you, France will come back to the table and try to renegotiate. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. France will never leave.
Yeah.
Just because they left the military bases does not mean they have left, right? But what we can get is better terms. What we can get is come back and renegotiate some of these terms and renegotiate some of these agreements that were signed under false pretense.
But some countries have cancelled it completely, and they have come to the point that they cannot maintain these particular agreements. And some of these agreements were not in their own favor. And that's why Burkina Faso tore it away. Mali did the same, and Niger, because it goes back to what I was saying, that Andre, to remove a system like France in your own, this France Afrique, it's like a cancer. And experts have called it all kinds of names. So if you look at the key aspects of this France Afrique, political influence, you have the economic control, you have the military presence, the secretive networks. So the upper echelon, that group, that 1% that basically benefits, like you've pointed out, in across that French-speaking region. So this is not like you are trying to do something which you are not sure. No, this is something which it's been designed to fit a few, and that's where the problem lies. And that's what we are talking about here, because if you have those 4 sections that we see on the screen there, it means you are done. If they can clip you politically, economically, and the social aspect, then these countries are in total trouble. Like the president of Nigeria, former president Mr. Goodluck Jonathan, said that was a palace coup in Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau is struggling. The economy is in shambles. The future, the aspiration. So by just renegotiating the contract, like you said, I think it's going to be problematic. It's better to you and I know how to pull a cassava from the soil, a real cassava. You have to uproot it. It's a system that needs to be dismantled completely. It's a software. If it's a software system, you have to uninstall it. Because if you really have to operate, if you really have to, what kind of a system that does not allow you to have strategic partners who can provide you infrastructural growth, investment, bid for contracts. So we can criticize China over and over, but they have exposed France to an extent. This is not about France's citizens. No, it's about France's foreign policy in Africa. This is completely different from the France as a nation, because there are a number of French nationals who do not like what their country gets them into. Like United States nationals are complaining sometimes on United States foreign policy. So the most embarrassment came when France refused to leave Niger. So my question to you here is, if you have a system that puts people in such a condition that you and I were seeing the screen here, on the economic front, the CFA that are subjugated that region. Recently, the country struggled to have their own currency. It was refused. So France is benefiting here so much that it's like they won't let go anything that happened, like the case in Benin. Is France aware that African countries, especially French-speaking, are ready to take a new chapter in their history? Or is it about time for this to go it alone?
It's been about time for these countries to go at it alone. But I think that sometimes you don't know how much you have until you see someone else doing it. So we're looking at the Sahel nation and we're looking at them for leadership, for direction, right? And it's I tell you, it's such a dangerous thing, man. It's such a dangerous thing. We've seen this before. Again, go back to Thomas Sankara. They got him killed. I worry for these. I worry for some of these guys.
Yeah.
I pray for some of these guys often, because
I agree.
this France and all these other superpowers would stop at nothing. They will stop at nothing to
Yeah.
get to get their way. So, but I just have a good feeling. I just have a good feeling that
Yeah.
the tides are finally turning, and people are waking
And
up.
the people have recognized too, because you know
People
a
are-
lot of Africans were traitors before, right?
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
were traitors, and they were very easily deceived. They could give them 1,000 euros or $1,000
And they'll
to
turn
go
their
do
backs.
something funny, and they will turn their back. But it appears that the people are ready now to sleep hungry and then rally behind the flag. It appears the sense of nationalism has not robbed some African countries, some French speaking in the region. You and I know some of those countries, but in countries they've come to the realization that because they are facing existential threat, because that's just homeland. If they do not figure out how to break this partnership, then there's going to be a problem in the future. Like you said, I've always said it here on the channel over and over. We have more than 30 videos on it. I said, if Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are doing the right thing, we will find out. If they are doing the wrong thing, we will find out. So do you also feel that Europe has relied so much on France's, because France was like the big dog in the region? A lot of European countries relied on France's own, France had it under control during its exploit in the continent. I have this sense of, I was talking to one foreign policy expert. He told me that some European countries are regretting that they allow France to lead the way, and now that image is robbing to some of the countries, and they cannot really engage some countries in the continent of Africa because a number of nationals and citizens see them from France's lens. Is that a concern for allowing France over the years to have this free ride in the continent of Africa, and is impacting some true partners that can come in?
I don't know the extent to that, but if you were at that table at the Berlin conference, then you and France should be in the same statement. I don't know what they're talking about. What are they trying to exude themselves from? If they were seated at that table during those organizations when they were splitting across one people into different pits and pieces so they can take advantage, then yes, they are all in bed with one another. Are we disputing who is the worst evil? Evil is evil in the eyes of God.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. What are they distancing themselves from France from? They are all the same. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They were all in bed together. They all split the pieces of the cake together, and they need to sit on it. They need to hold it, because we see them as the same. I don't see Germany as more of an ally to Africa than France. I don't. I see
Yeah,
all of them in the same
I
light
agree.
because what they're going to do is take advantage when the time comes. France is just more intentional with it. France is just more direct with it, and sometimes maybe that's even better because at least we know what we're dealing with. You know, if they
That's
if
true.
hypothetically the option were to say, okay, pick who you want to take over, France, to keep France, or go with Germany, who are we really taking? Or Britain? Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know how to answer the question. They're all the same. What they need to do is leave us alone. They have taken advantage for more than 400 years, and we are saying that it's time. It's time. And then if they think they're worried now, they should wait because the generation behind us, the Gen Zs coming up, they are not playing. They are not playing. They are even more educated. They are more politically aware, and they have social media. They have the social. They have the truth. 20 years ago, France Afrique would not have published the article you just posted on here. But
Yes.
with social media, because of people are aware. People know what's going on, and then you have platforms like yours. There are other platforms out there of people who do not shy away from telling the truth. So the youth know what is happening. They see what is
Yeah.
happening, and they are engaged, actively engaged in geopolitics. So all of this, my brother, spells danger for France. The giant will fall.
Great.
It's only a matter of time. It may not be in our generation, but the giant will fall eventually.
So, do you think that France still have an opportunity to to kind of because President of France, Mr. Macron, when he came to power, he was saying that because what we are looking at now is the Sahel region, a very critical strategic zone in the continent of Africa. What happened in the Sahel will determine what's going to happen in most West Africans, especially French speaking. So when Mr. Macron came to power, he said something. He said, I've had that quote over and over here on the channel. He said that I am from a generation that do not tell Africans on what to do. And that has fallen apart, that statement. We saw her, he mentioned that some African leaders are not, they are ungrateful for France's role in the region. No, I think they were not saying that they were not grateful. The Operation Barkhane, France's troops lost their life. You have African troops who died in the Second World War helping France in a number of areas, but some of them were not recognized in several ways. It took time, like the Senegalese riflemen that France was forced to. So France's colonial excesses has it has a dirty history in the region. It's not clean. So I think France hasn't really done enough to go back to it. It's just based this thing on solidarity of that. No, Africans don't need that. Africans need infrastructure now. Africans need healthcare system. Africans need a better road network. They need cyber information. They need security. They need all of this investment, actual investment, not investment talking about democracy. And so democracy is important, but if you just keep talking about democracy and the Chinese are building roads, they are building places, and then you come to power, according to Mr. Macron, I'm from a generation that do not tell Africans on what to do. I think there is a fundamental mistake here. I think even Mr. Macron himself on the French foreign policy do not still recognize the difficulties that the French-speaking countries are going through. Because United Nations keep publishing documents, oh, these countries are doing well, they're doing okay. They are, but they had to wrestle their freedom from France. And if they do that, they come under sanctions, they come under tremendous pressure, like from the European Union. So my question to you is, will you say that we have like 10 minutes to go? Will you say that Francophone African countries benefited under Mr. Macron's reign than they would have? Because you said here that the publication, the article that I showed you is true, would have never been published 15 years ago. So do you think Mr. Macron will regret that under his term, a number of African countries gained their freedom. Let me put it that way.
Do I think he would regret?
Yes. Or will it be like,
I think
if I
I think
knew, like,
I think if he had the means to stop it, he would. I think if he had the means to stop it, he would. I think what's happening is just life taking its course. I think it's just time. It just happened to be those nations. There are other countries we can name that should have been leading that fight, but for one reason or another they chose not to. But it happened to be them, and I think it was time, and there was nothing France could do about it. Now the question remains: who is going to follow suit? So France is one of those things where you have 100 slaves in a camp and five happen to get away. You don't struggle to go and chase those five to come back. You struggle to keep the 95 that's left. And I think that's what France is trying to do right now. That's what France is trying to do. France is saying, okay, now we need to recoup. But let's go back to China. China took the last 50, 60 years to build itself, right? China did not depend on anyone. China literally built itself from ground up, and then to get itself to the position where it is now, where without any natural resources, they are able to take over the world with the infrastructure they have built, right? France did not do that. France has spent the last 100 years eating and lavishing off of Africa's wealth and Africa's riches. That's just the reality. How many industries have they built? Right? So
yeah, that's a good
everything
question.
that they have to do has to do with Africa. So they have depended on this continent for so long. They don't know what life would be without this continent. Right? They're not capable of standing on their own. And those are facts.
Yeah, I'm grateful.
So it's not even a matter of ingratitude, it's a matter of what are we going to do without them? Because we don't know what life is going to be without them. It's like a child leaving their house for the first time and they have no idea what's going to happen to them out there. Macron just happens to be the president that popped that champagne. The rest that will follow will be able to drink it. And I think that's what's happening now.
It is a system that I think France Africa has been the worst strategic partnership that African countries found themselves into, and I think that going back to the previous administrations, France Africa has always been a place where some of these leaders come there and then they hang around, they just sit there, and they don't have infrastructures in their country, and they come and pop champagne and go back. So France Africa is coming out to be exposed, and the system, Mr. Macron himself, is the one who killed it in Montpellier. I think if I'm right there, just to show you that image again, or show our viewers that particular France Afrique that Mr. Macron ended, because it comes to a point where Mr. Macron was saying that he wants to basically have a new kind of France Afrique relationship. So he actually ended this. Instead of bringing African leaders, I think it was in this summit, this one in Montpellier, I remember 2021. So he basically brought in some African, you would say that elites or influencers who came, people like Youssef N'Dour. I remember Youssef N'Dour was in this summit in France. There was no African president there. So I think that was a fundamental blunder in France's own side, to ignore the leaders of the country and then start selecting. Africa got its own culture. There are some things you can't just do. So what he did there was to ignore the leaders, snub them, and then brought the elites or some superstars to come and talk. So what can these superstars talk on Africa's own behalf, where the control is so tight? Because if you build a system like the president of Guinea, the current president of Guinea said, if you build a system which is France Afrique, designed for the upper echelon of the system that is not inclusive is bound to fail. This is the failure that we are seeing in this system, and we haven't seen any France-Afrique summit. It's as a result of that, France itself has come to the point where it recognizes that this particular group designed for a few wealthy countries or presidents across the region to eat fat. So is it time for African countries, those French-speaking, who still see France, or who are still dreaming that France still have some kind of influence, that they fail to take up to the stand and make decisions that are relevant for their own people? Do they still see France as a relevant partner? Because nobody sees that. Nobody sees France have made any significant contribution at the moment.
I think eventually, as people continue to wise up, people continue to learn, and these individuals continue, these countries continue to grow from a geopolitical perspective. I think that they'll realize that that is what's happening, and I think that France eventually will come back to the table and have to put better terms on the table for these countries, because I see no future for France without Africa. So the only option.
I think that's a bold statement. Yeah, I think they're going to struggle, no doubt, because we've seen that, like what I showed you, the uranium issue. The Urano is a French company that had been kicked out. The CFA franc is under threat as well. Some countries are questioning that they want to use the ECO, and France is struggling in that aspect. And China is eating the market share of France incredibly. But I think Nigeria appears to be like one of those countries that have recently formed a strategic partnership with China, with France, so to point out. But I think that is going to backfire also, because the way that French-speaking countries understand France, it looks like Nigeria has no clue on which partner it wants to get into. What do you think?
I think Nigeria's case is just an embarrassment, to be quite honest with you. I see a nation that has so much potential and just constantly plays below its potential every single time the opportunity arises. And that move, trying to get in bed with France, is yet another reason why Nigeria just continues to fail its nation, fail its people, some of the most brilliant people you come across in this world, or from the continent of Africa. But that notwithstanding, I still maintain that France becomes a third world country without Africa. I still maintain that notion.
That's true. Yeah.
Because when you look at what they benefit from us, when you look at what they take from this continent, how can they survive without it? So there will come a time when they will have to come back to the drawing boards, and they will say, listen, we understand you guys are not happy with the previous deal, but this is what we can do moving forward. Because Russia will be such a player, and China will be such a player. When they continue to see how much of the market share is being lost to those other two countries, making them stronger, they will have to come back and renegotiate. But the moment they continue to feel like they have leverage, the moment they continue to feel like they have a way in to come in and twist the narrative to continue to control, that is using those old tricks that we've seen for more than 100 years, that's when they will continue to do that. And I'm calling on all these other countries to follow in the footsteps of Burkina Faso, to follow in the footsteps of Mali and Niger, to say, hey, now it's time. And it's so funny because what if Ivory Coast were to do? Imagine Ivory Coast were to do something like that. Considering how developed, considering how advanced Ivory Coast is already at this point in time, imagine how the country is going to take off, right? So
exactly, to make the independent policies, to decide his own what particular investment he wants and who he wants to work with. So
work with who you want to work with that benefits your nation. Work with who you work with that benefits your nation. This is politics and it's business. It's business at the end of the day.
Everything is about the interest, it's about the interest. So it only appears they can't even do this in the East African countries. They cannot even try it.
Oh,
so
no.
I think it's
They're too
comes to
aware.
the point where
They are too aware for that.
France has been exposed to an extent, and I think it's going to be a challenge moving forward. So we're going to see what new policies they want to roll in the continent of Africa. But from my own perspective, I think you've laid it out. You've given an insight into where this relationship stands at the moment. It's full of doubts. I don't see where France is going to take it from here, considering all of the baggage that France had within that particular region. So we've seen these countries, they are bent to charter a new path in their history. So give me your closing remarks regards to what's your assessment you think moving forward from here, considering what happened in the past 2-3 years in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. And we had the ceremonial coup, according to using the word of Mr. Goodluck Jonathan, in the country of Gabon. And we saw Madagascar collapsed. We saw recently Benin almost gone. For Senegal, they are gone. It's only Ivory Coast, the darling of France, who is hanging at the moment. So do you think that we were right to point out that France, Afrique, which has a hidden agenda to store some of these countries' growth in the region, do you think that this France, Afrique, has been successfully uprooted in these 3 Sahel countries? Are the Sahelian countries seeing something that some other countries, French-speaking, are not seeing at the moment? How do you look at the foreign policy moving forward, considering that a number of these countries in the Sahel are aware and they are very informed at the moment? What would be your take if you are put in a situation to advise those countries that are still very close with France?
I would advise those countries to follow what the Sahel countries have done, follow their examples, follow their footsteps. And is France completely out? Is France really, really out? It's a little bit too early to tell. But based on what we are seeing so far, we like what is happening. We like where it's going. And we all need to keep our eyes open. They need to be very careful, because we've seen what happened with Gaddafi in the past. We can go back to other examples. It only takes one instant for them to spin up a narrative, and then we spin that block all over again. It's clear that France wants to be here forever. It's clear that France wants to be in control forever. That is, our parents' generations are gone. Ours is on its way out, and now our children have to deal with that as well. It's very clear. Now, what they do not know is that the youth of today are coming with more. They're more aware. They're more conscious of what's happening around them, right? And they have a heart like no other generation I can think of. So these kids are not, look at what's happening in Senegal. These kids are not afraid to get on the streets when they see something that smells foul. They will get on the streets and they will make things happen. So when I look at Senegal right now, can you tell where exactly Senegal stands? Is it possible for you to tell where Senegal stands? Because what they preach going in is not what they're executing right now, based on my observation. And when you look at what's happening between Sonko and who is supposed to be his brother, I have questions. What's happening over there. So that's another way of, you see France meddling its way in and controlling what's happening at the top. So you would see two people that walked in with the zeal to eliminate France, and then all of a sudden they are tiptoeing around that action. They are tiptoeing around everything. So who knows the discussions that have been going on behind the scenes? Look at what happened in Gabon. We were all celebrating a coup, and we come to realize it's just a tossing of the champagne, and they are passing the ball over to their cousin, right?
Over to someone else,
So,
and that is that system.
We have to keep our eyes open. And we just have to do the best that we can. But we need to talk about these things. Conversations like this need to be happening because there are so many people that are living oblivious to all of these things that's happening on the continent, especially the diaspora. We need to be involved. We have a lot of power. We have a lot of the diaspora in itself can create its own strike by ceasing to send money. Let's not ignore the remittance money that we're spending on this continent.
Yeah.
If that's what it takes for these kids on the continent to get their head straight and stand up and go to the street and demand what belongs to them, then that's what has to happen.
Yeah.
But those days are long gone where they're sitting in comfort. They know exactly what makes us tick and they know what makes us sleep. So now they've been sedating us for more than 100 years and we're tired of it. We're tired of it.
Yeah. So thanks very much. Thank you very much, all the viewers. Andre, thank you for coming. I will
Always
make sure that I try to get Andre on board. And we have tons of episodes that are coming up, especially during these holiday seasons. We will be having a couple of podcasts together concerning these critical topics, especially Africa's strategic survivor. If you're joining us for the first time, I encourage you to watch some of our other informative content on the YouTube channel. Andre, I want to thank you. Andre was joining us from directly from the Gambia. I appreciate your time, and I'll be looking forward to meeting you again in our next episode. So thank you so much, Andre.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.